to another episode of This Is Metal with Joe Lawson. Now, Joe, today we're going to be talking about, you've been wanting to do an episode on Death Angel for a while. I know a lot of the fans have hit us up on the This Is Metal page and said the same thing. So we're finally getting to do an episode on Death Angel. Now, you're much more of a fan of this band than I am. And so why don't you share with us, story of how you first got into Death Angel?
Well, I actually first heard of Death Angel after they released their Act 3 album.
Interesting.
In 1989.
Oh, okay.
And to this day, I go back and listen to that, and what a phenomenal record. I mean, it was well written, well recorded, great songs, great melodies.
Now,
that got me into them, and it was like a different kind of direction
for them
with what they did in the past, and even what they're doing now. It's just a really standout album. It's probably my favorite, or very close to my favorite album from Death Angel.
Now, here's an interesting thing about that, Joe. Okay, like I said, you're much more of a Death Angel fan than me in terms of knowing that we're going to be doing this episode. Last couple of days, I started listening to some of their music to kind of familiarize myself, so I know what I was talking about when we did this. Now, interesting thing is I picked up everything I read on this band. I checked out kind of two albums. The debut album, because that's like a lot of bands when they first come out, they make quite a statement with that debut album, as did this band. And a lot of people either point to the debut album or the one you said, Act 3. Now, in regards to Act 3, let me ask you, many people kind of say this was Death Angel's equivalent of the Black Album. Would you agree with that, or not?
Well, I could see them saying that, to some extent. It's not...
it doesn't sound nothing like...
It's an all-out thrash record,
yeah.
But that's what I like about it. There's melody, there's songwriting, there's a lot... There's just really raw talent. It's like they just exploded with all this talent. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and in that way, I don't think it's similar to the Black Album.
No,
because I think they took a step up with Act 3, not a step down.
Okay, interesting. Now, just to kind of give people a little history lesson on Death Angel. Death Angel was formed in 1982. Originally, they went by the name Dark Theory. Didn't really say why. Now, Death Angel, of course, one of many bands that was, part of that Bay Area thrash scene that really broke out in a big way around 1985 or 86. But they were one of the original bands, when that was just starting to kind of take shape.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty much at the forefront. Yeah. They were there in the 80s playing with Megadeth and Slayer, Testament, Exodus, Overkill, all those bands. They pretty much, as far as like the Bay Area, I mean they're
one of the original bands, the
biggest thrash metal bands from that to ever come out of that area, for sure.
Yeah, and I was reading up on the band, and kind of interesting is going back to the original lineup that there were I think three of the band members were cousins. They were of Filipino descent. Not that really matters, but that's what kind of made the band so unique. They were really almost they were a family band, and it says the year they were active was 1982 to 1991, and then as we're going to get into later, in 1991 the drummer was involved in a tour bus accident. He became severely injured, and it took over a year for him to recover. So at that point in time, the band decided kind of, break up and call it a day, and then they wouldn't return again until
2001.
2001 to the present, and so far they've released 9 studio albums. It said.
Yeah. All the records are great, but for me, the last 10 years maybe. Yeah. The last 3 or 4 records that they put out, I mean, just completely blew me away, and I just absolutely love them. The Dream Calls for Blood, and some of those, their newest one, Humanicide, just phenomenal. For aggressive thrash music, they're just really, really good albums. Now, the only 2 original guys I think this is worth pointing out too, is the guitarist Rob and the vocalist Mark. They're the only two original guys that appeared on all the albums.
Oh wow!
And are original members that stayed, throughout the band. And we talked about that before.
Yeah.
It's usually one or two guys, and it happens to be the singer and the guitar player. That carried the name and carried on with the band. So
you got to give them credit for that. I mean, they're guys that kept it going.
They stuck it out. Yeah, absolutely.
And going all
they did.
Going all the way.
And they came back for a benefit concert for Chuck Billy. Is when they made their return.
Come back. Okay.
And their official public return. And also with their latest album, they were nominated for a Grammy. So now they're a Grammy nominated band as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we have to kind of go back to the beginning because Joe, I was reading that when I seen this in one of those documentaries that about the Bay Area thrash scene. And all these bands. I mean, the club scene there, San Francisco, is very much like the LA rock scene, where you had all these bands playing the same club scene, and not just the thrash bands, but you had metal bands, you had punk bands, and even though if it was a punk band, a thrash band, a metal band, or whatever, or even more of a hard rock band, all these bands that played that same scene, they were friends. They worked together. It didn't matter.
Sure, yeah.
It wasn't thrash against a punk or anything like that. They were all part of that same scene. So much to the point that the guy that produced their debut album was Davey Vane, the lead singer from Vane. Which, if anybody knows anything about Vane, they're much more of a kind of hard rock glam band. And you would think a guy like that would have nothing to do with thrash, but he's like, we were part of the same. I seen him talking about this. He was like, we were part of the same scene. And people find out I was the one that produced the debut album by Death Angel. People can't believe it, but he said, I'm a fan of music too, and it didn't matter if they were a thrash band and I wasn't from a thrash band. I was just into metal of any kind.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It goes to show you how things used to be,
Yeah, and
the good old days.
And see, here's the thing, Joe. I don't know if you ever heard of the debut album. It's called Ultra Violence, and it's kind of ultra heavy. This is a very kind of, if you go back in time like we're doing, this is a very kind of beginning of the band, obviously, and they were super heavy on heavy. I mean, even I was reading stuff on their YouTube page where people were saying, Death Angel, they were heavier than Metallica was at the time. And it was kind of funny, by the time you get to Act 3, which is the other album you said really got you into Death Angel, I was reading interviews with some of the guys, that are online, and they were talking about how by the time they get to Act 3, there's actually a song that has an acoustic guitar. And people are hearing, this Act 3 album, they're like, that doesn't sound like metal. But like you said, if you go down the line, you listen to all the songs on Act 3, every song on there kind of stands out in a way, and that no two songs sound exactly like. So it's one of those albums that, okay, if you're a metal fan, if you like kind of softer stuff, there's a little something on there for everybody. And that's kind of a point they were trying to make, or a statement rather, with that album. I was reading somewhere where the lead singer was saying, a guitar player, he wanted to have a song where it was an acoustic solo, and they thought, okay, does that mean just because we're a metal band that we can't have a softer song on there? I mean, so that's why a lot of more people were listening to that album. It's a little something for everybody, and it made it easier with that album to start to get regular airplay on both metal radio and MTV as far as getting on Handbangers Ball regularly.
Yeah, yep. And it's just a great album. I mean, overall, it's definitely worth, if you're not familiar with these guys, it's definitely worth checking this band out. Like I said, don't listen to one album and think that you got them wrapped up, because
that's the thing.
That's not the case.
Yeah, and see, and just kind of for time purposes, I was listening to these two albums, and it's kind of interesting that I chose those two albums, because I thought, okay, let's listen to the very first thing they came out of the gates with, the debut album, Ultra Violence. Like I said, pretty much everything on there is a metal, a metal tune. I mean, it's ultra heavy, ultra thrash. And the best thing I can say about the debut album Act 3 or any Death Angel is that they're not trying to sound like Metallica, not trying to sound like, they got their own sound going. They really don't sound anything like the other thrash bands out there. They really stand out on their own, and it's amazing they didn't become bigger, which had to do when they originally broke up the first time, not just because the drummer was in a serious bus accident where he got injured, but they got to a point where they thought, okay, after releasing this album, we're not a bigger band. In some ways, things started to happen for them, like they were initially signed to Enigma Records, and by the time they released Act 3, Geffen Records wanted them, and so they were willing to buy out their contracts because they believed in Death Angel so much.
Yeah, I mean, they have had some peak moments. I mean, they charted on Billboard a couple of different times. They had 2 Japanese sold-out tours. They've played all the big festivals, Wacken and Bang Your Head and all those types of things. And they've toured with Testament and, all these big-name bands, that put them on the map, along with these guys, but because they were there from that time frame in the beginning, at the same time that these guys were doing it. So the Ultraviolence was released in 87.
Yeah.
Frolic Through the Park in 88. Act 3 came out in 1990. The Art of Dying, 2004. Killing Season, 2008. Relentless Retribution, 2010. Now that's where I got reacquainted with them, and I listened to that, and I was like, holy shit, yeah, Death Angel's like serious now, and The Dream Calls for Blood, which is also one of my favorites from 2013, The Evil Divide in 2016, and Humanicide in 2019 was their last album.
Oh, and Joe, I took a few notes here that I kind of want to touch on here. So in regards to Act 3, I made some notes on some of the songs. So the first song was Veil of Deception. It's kind of I think this is the tune I was talking about. Slower, features an acoustic guitar. Not really a thrash song, but it's one of the more standout tracks, I thought. The Organization, I described this one as thrash with melody. Great riffing on this one as far as, the guitar riffing. Discontinue. Now this is probably the most interesting one to me. It's a bit of a thrash funk combo, and I've really never heard anything like this before from any other thrash band. It's a real original sound here. Have you heard that one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think the song that you were talking about being more of a laid-back song was A Room with a View.
Okay, yeah, Room with a View. Yeah, that's an acoustic ballad type, that one too. And then
great track. I love all of them.
Yeah, I mean, really any of the tunes on the whole album. But these are kind of ones I took note. Stagnant. I like that for just simple, heavy, aggressive thrash. And so that's kind of one of those albums, I think, where they went in there and said, okay, we really want to make something different than we've done before. We don't want to, I guess it's what Death Angel didn't want to kind of go in there and make a carbon copy of what they'd done before. They were like, okay, we're going to really make a statement with this. And they did so much that, like you said, once this album's released, things start to happen for a band. So much to the point, I don't know if you realize this. Do you remember the Clash of a Titan tour? Well, they were originally supposed to be, Death Angel was supposed to originally be on that tour. But again, they didn't end up being part of a tour because at that point, the drummer's involved in a serious tour bus accident. It's going to take him a lot longer to, heal. The rest of the band doesn't want to do it without him. They decide, maybe this is time for the band to take a break. And then, like you said, they didn't come back again until 2001.
Right, yeah. And, that's unfortunate because I think they could have been a bigger band.
Yeah.
If that wouldn't have happened and they continued doing what they're doing,
because
it's hard to say because here's the thing, the drummer that they got now, Will Carroll, that guy is just a beast. He's an animal. I mean, he's really good, and so was the other guy. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but they might have went a different direction. Who knows?
Well, here's the thing too, Joe.
So it could have been good and it could have been bad, but the timing of it was really unfortunate because, like you said, they just started getting some serious
traction.
Press and some serious attention here with this album, and then poof, they're gone.
And here's the thing too, Joe.
So that was the wrong time for them to pull out.
Yeah, and here's the thing with it
but
too.
I understand their discontent and their frustration in dealing with the label, and it's not simple choices that you make as a band.
Yeah, and everything.
When you sign to a label like that, you're told what you're going to do.
And everything is 20.
For the most part,
20,
you really, especially back then, they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in some of these bands. So you're under contract to do what they want you to do.
And hindsight is always
a job at that point.
Hindsight is always 20/20. And here's the thing too. It's kind of interesting because they were on a upward traction at that point, and then things start to kind of fall apart. But just think about this, okay? Who took over on the Clash of Titans tour? I mean, Alice in Chains was a band ended up getting their spot, and that was the tour that kind of put Alice in Chains really on the map. Of course, grunge is starting to hit big and everything, and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. They're kind of, but see, they got the opening slot on that tour, and like I said, things might have gone differently for Death Angel if they had ended up doing the tour, but lucky for Alice in Chains. I mean, that's what broke that band,
Right.
And if you think about it...
Did you know that Mark was invited in '92 to audition for Anthrax when Joey Belladonna left?
Oh, I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. So that could have been an interesting combination too. I mean,
Anthrax
is a great band, but I love Joey Belladonna. To me, that is the voice of Anthrax.
Oh yeah, and here's another thing that I don't know if you're aware of, Joe, but I was reading about going back to Death Angel's debut album. When they made that debut album, they were all 3 of the guys were under 20 years old, and then the drummer was only 14 years old when he recorded that album.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Talk about young.
Yeah. I mean,
went behind the ears.
I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, for those guys to, record a album at that young age, I mean, and at that quality, it's just, in the skill level, it just boggles the mind.
Right. Here's another reason why, going back to what we were saying about the unfortunate timing of the bus accident with their drummer. They were invited to tour Europe with Annihilator and Judas Priest on the Painkiller tour. Yeah. That would have been huge for them.
Yeah.
And they canceled the offer, and as we know, they were replaced by a band called Pantera.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
That could have really helped launch them, stuff like that,
Yeah, and we've often talked, Joe, about one of the hardest things is for just coming up with a band name, and you're not going to believe I was reading. Death Angel was actually chosen as a band's name after some of the band members saw a book in a bookstore with the title Death Angel. So this is just a title of a book they happened to come across.
Right.
I mean,
it's a cool name. I mean,
it fits.
Why not?
Yeah, and and again, Death Angel. Okay, here's another interesting thing. It's talking. Death Angel has opened for. Now, get this. It's quite a list. Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Exodus, Testament, Overkill, and Merciful Fate. Of course, being King Diamond's band before he went solo. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. They were there with those bands. I mean, they came up with those bands. Playing shows with them and knew them.
And here's another.
They were part of that. They were part of that scene, especially like I said, the Bay Area.
Yeah, okay, and then here's some more interesting things I picked up on. Okay, now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but one of the songs on the debut album of Ultraviolence is the song Kill As One. Apparently, the demo of that song was produced by none other than Kirk Hammett of Metallica. And,
there you go.
And because Kirk Hammett produced this, and they started passing the tape around and started getting such great success with it, that is actually the demo tape that landed their very first record deal with Enigma Records.
Yeah. Yep, right place at the right time with the right friends.
Yeah.
And the talent, of course.
Yeah, and then, getting back to Nick...
Being that young and being able to put a record out like that, I mean, is a pretty amazing accomplishment. Not too many people, I would say, can say they've done anything like that,
Yeah, and then also... Death Angel's Act 3 also happened to be produced by none other than Max Norman, who previously had worked with Ozzy Osbourne, Megadeth, Sabotage, Fate's Warning, and Loudness. So by the time they get to this Act 3 album, Max Norman wants to produce.
Mastered by George Marino and co-produced by Tom Zutaut.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of big names that had their hands in on that.
Yeah, and you just kind of wonder why, why it kind of all came together and fell apart at the same time. Just one of those things, I tell you, when you look at...
Yeah, came and went as fast like a puff of smoke, like a fart in a windstorm.
Yeah. And also Geffen Records, they released the Act 3 album. Geffen Records was a very, David Geffen, very big record company at the time. This is the same company, they had signed... They had people also signed to that label like Whitesnake, Sammy Hagar, Heart,
Guns N' Roses,
big name people, and they bought out their record contract, which for a big label like that to do that, that tells you they had to have believed in Death Angel quite a bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the talent was definitely there, unquestionably, and They had some promising moments, but metal's kind of always been underground,
Yeah,
That's kind of cool to me too, So, as long as they were able to thrive and continue and survive, I mean, that's awesome. And they write, uncompromising music, and that's what I like about them the most. They're true to their form. I think that the music they're releasing today is who they were 20, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? They're not trying to ride any trends or any fashions or any of the bullshit. Especially now, there pretty much is no music industry.
Yeah. Now
they're doing what they want to do, which is beautiful. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now here's something I was reading too that kind of just says it all. What you were just saying, how metal has always kind of been underground. Now, getting back to the debut album, the Ultraviolence, the album is considered a thrash metal classic. Now it's listed, get this, at number 370 in a book from 2010. The book is the top 500 heavy metal albums of all time. I mean, Joe, just think about that for a minute. Can you believe there's a list somewhere of 500 classic metal albums? I mean, oh my God.
I believe it.
And they're at like 370 on that chart. So that's kind of it's a little not quite towards the bottom, but it's kind of in the middle. And so even a debut album like that, that many metalheads are into that album that all these years later, they're still, it's on one of these lists, the top 500. So I think that kind of, says it all.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does. And I didn't know if you knew this or not, but if you go to deathangel.us, at the top of their site, they have, their home shows, shopping, their own beer, music, and all their stuff on their website. But they got a couple of shows coming up in your area, or not too far from your area, I don't think. House of Blues in San Diego on October 8th.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
October 10th, the House of Blues in Anaheim.
Oh, wow, yeah, Anaheim's probably a lot closer. But, again, talking about the Ultraviolence, I was listening to some of the tracks off of that. Now, there's one on there called Mistress, and Mistress of Pain. This song to me just sounds like a nuclear bomb is going off. I mean, it's super heavy, the drumming. I mean, especially on this Ultraviolence album, I noticed two things that really stood out: the drumming and the vocals. The singer, it's kind of like, even though it's real heavy thrash, he really enunciates his vocals. You can hear what he's singing. I mean, it's kind of opposite of Slayer, where even though this is thrashing heavy music, you can hear what the singer sing. Like when you listen to Slayer, it's like kind of just screeching, screaming, but and they're kind of just doing it for the effect, if you know what I mean. But this is really kind of thrash with heavy ripping and drumming, and just it's amazing because it sounds nothing like Slayer. I mean, it's thrash with melody. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Right. That is a good explanation of it. And on the Ultraviolence, they had a song called IPFS that stood for Intense Puke Feeling Syndrome.
Wow.
So, those are the 80s.
Yeah, and it's amazing because, like you said, they continue to release new music, and again, I think that even probably the latest thing they put out doesn't sound like what came before. They're one of these bands that are kind of ever evolving, and I think the fans like that. Where you have a band like AC/DC, well, fans kind of you expect every album to kind of sound the same, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, with the release of their last album, Humanicide, I think they're finally in a good place as far as the band goes, because this is the first time they've released an album with the same lineup for 3 albums in a row.
Oh wow!
So they're really starting to find their own niche and their own groove and what works and all of that kind of stuff, And they got a great producer in Jason Sukoff. He's produced, I think, the last 3 or 4 of that records for them too. So he's got their sound dialed in and knows what to do with
and I forget what album it was, but I was reading something where there's this one album that, was kind of a hit for them, but they, for whatever reason, choose not to play too much material from that one album. I do not know why.
Yeah. That I'm not sure what album you're referring to.
Yeah. But
probably Frolic Through the Park.
Maybe that's
it. That was their oddball in 1988. It was a different kind of a crossover album.
Oh, okay, that's probably it.
It's got funk and hard rock and punk, and it's kind of got a blend of styles, and they were just kind of all over the place. And it wasn't a bad album.
I hear you.
It's a very very different album.
I mean, I mentioned that.
But that's where you mentioned Cold Gin. That was the album that had the remake of Cold Gin on it.
Yeah, see, I'm a bit of a Kiss fan, so that was kind of my introduction to Death Angel. Actually, I heard that because at the time that was all over kind of metal radio, and and so a lot of people were hearing that at the time. But once you listen to it, it's pretty like I said, ultra heavy thrash music, and I think it's one metal band, like I said, that I can honestly say they really do not sound like any of their peers. They really stand out on their own.
Yeah. Going over The Dream Calls for Blood, that's one of my favorite records. In 2013, this was released, and it sold 5,400 copies in the U.S. the first week it was released, and hit number 72 on the Billboard. So that's almost unheard of for a thrash metal band.
Yeah.
That is rare. Now you're getting into the likes of Megadeth and Metallica and bands like that. I mean, that's getting up there.
Yeah, and
great album. I highly recommend if you haven't heard that.
Yeah,
definitely give that a listen. The song "The Dream Calls for Blood," "Left for Dead," "Son of the Morning," "Fallen." There's some great songs on that.
Now, Joe, in all your years of touring as a musician yourself, have you ever been on any bills with these guys or crossed their paths while you were on the road?
No, and I've tried to a couple of times, but it just didn't work out because they're a national act. It's for somebody that's been around doing this as long as I have. It's still a game. The people that put this stuff together, you purchase buy-ons and pay to play, and I refuse to do that. I haven't done that in many years. And
I'll tell you a crazy thing out here in LA. I mean, when even just up to a few years ago, pay to play was still the big thing in Hollywood. They were even they would have the big name tribute bands pay to play, if you can even believe that.
Yeah. Well, now all they got is tribute bands playing, so everybody wants to run around and pretend they're somebody else, act like they're somebody else. It's pathetic. It's weak. I respect cover bands because you're covering other bands, a variety of other people's music, and that takes skill, that takes talent. That is not easy to do. Whether you're a guitar player or a singer, it's a lot of work learning those people's playing styles, and it's not that being in a tribute band is not a lot of work. That's not fair to say. But what I will say is, to me, from the outside looking in, if you're going to look like somebody else, you're going to talk like somebody else, you're going to dress like somebody else, and you're going to ride the success of their coattails, that's weak and pathetic. You're pathetic. And that shouldn't be rewarded.
Yeah,
I'm not sorry, but that's what I think.
Yeah, here's the thing with that, though, Joe.
True talent and true creativity should be embraced and supported, and it's not anymore. Now
It's big business.
If you play whatever the jukebox plays, basically what happened is, remember when you were younger and everywhere you went there was a jukebox. Pizza Hut, they had a jukebox.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere did. And the top 40, whatever was popular, was in the jukebox. Well, that's basically what tribute bands have become.
It's funny you say
today.
It's funny you say that, because I was seeing something online the other day where they're starting to do, like Spotify starting, for example, to do this thing where they're listing, for example, what the playlist was from Headbangers Ball from a particular day in a particular year. This is what they played, and we're gonna replay that, those songs or whatever. And so like you said, it's become a jukebox. But now, here's the interesting thing: is sometimes it's interesting, because like the guy that's the lead singer for Steel Panther, Michael Starr, he used to be the singer in L.A. Guns, okay, and he actually left L.A. Guns to go.
I did not know that guy was in L.A. Guns.
Yeah, really? He used to go by the name of Ralph Sanaz, and anyways, before he was ever in L.A. Guns, he was doing David Lee Roth and the Atomic Punks, which is the premier Van Halen tribute out here. And he was making more money doing the Van Halen tribute than he was in L.A. Guns as a sideman, as a hired gun, So he went back to doing that, and then he eventually got the idea to do Steel Panther, which is not really.
Sure. I don't blame musicians for chasing the money.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you before, I've mentioned this before on our show. There's two types of musicians.
There's
legacy builders and there's resume builders.
Yeah.
Most are resume builders, and they're looking to make money and to feel like a rock star.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, the easy route is join a cover a tribute band.
Yeah.
And people will automatically come see you. You'll get a paycheck, and you can run around and pretend you're a rock star. You can pretend you're that person.
And I guess the flip side of that is you could do it the way you've done it, and you may not be making the big money of a tribute band, but you get to play a rock star or whatever, and do it with your own original music.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more work, and there's a lot more invest that you have to sacrifice and invest.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just your time or just your money, but it's time that you could be spending with your family. It's time that you could be spending working overtime, making more money. And for that reason, a lot of original bands don't make a lot of money, and they go through things that most people will never know, that they don't even talk about.
Yeah.
They struggle and they have a hard time. It's not easy. It's a difficult road for any band, and it just makes it more difficult. And I don't know about your area, but our Chicago scene is crazy, ridiculous, oversaturated with tribute bands.
Oh yeah, I mean
there's got to be at least 5 or 6 of every fucking tribute band you can think of. Name a band, if it's a famous band, there's at least 5 or 6 tribute bands in Chicago doing it.
Oh yeah, I mean
it's just, to me, it's just a disgusting thing.
I mean, I'll say like this: L.A. and New York, when I was growing up, used to be the two kind of music capitals of the world. I mean, you go to New York now, you go to L.A., it's nothing like it once was. I mean, even the famous Hollywood Strip. I mean, back in the 80s, you could walk down to Hollywood Strip any night of the week, and you guaranteed to run into Blackie Lawless or Nikki Sixx or even Lemmy or whoever. But it's nothing like that these days. Actually, all the aging rock stars are either moving one of two places, either Vegas or Nashville, and the guys moving to Vegas because. If you move to Vegas, there's almost you can go to any of the casinos, any of the clubs. There's you're constantly finding gigs. That's the thing with Vegas, and then Nashville is where people want to go and write songs for other people, and constantly people get called up to go play on other people's records. So those are kind of the two kind of music capitals of the world in modern time now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just like a migrating thing, I guess, but they go wherever the money is and wherever the work is, and where things work for them. Yeah. But getting back to Death Angel, they released a song. A cover version of Queen's "Under Pressure."
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
If you haven't heard that, you check that out. It's pretty cool. And they prior to that, drummer Will Carroll became really ill with COVID.
Wow.
And was hospitalized. And by mid-2020, he had fully recovered and was beginning work on the next Death Angel album. So I haven't heard a whole lot about that yet, but they're working on it. So hopefully there's going to be another Death Angel album, probably in 2022, I would assume.
Yeah, and I just wanted to update you, Joe. Something, because we recently posted our episode on Sabotage about a month ago, and I was seeing on Amazon that they're releasing like some classic Sabotage releases like on vinyl, so people can check that out. So as far as like you were saying, you're looking forward to a new Sabotage release, I think that's coming too. But in the meantime, they're starting to release some of their older stuff on vinyl that was never released on vinyl.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know a lot of people are really getting into vinyl, and it's a big craze. It's pretty awesome. Just last year was the first time in my career that I had an album released on vinyl, and it was a really awesome feeling. Yeah,
I was going to ask you that. Cool. So would that be the Scream King album?
No, that was the Dragon Lore record.
Oh, wow.
Lucifer's Descent. It was released in Germany through Pure Steel, Iron Shield, and Metaleros Records.
Oh, wow.
So it was digital CD and gatefold vinyl.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, so that's the first time that I was ever able to do that with something that I did, and it was a pretty good feeling,
Actually, all
of accomplishment, at least for me it was.
Oh, wow, that's cool. And so, in regarding to your own career, Joe, you have any shows coming up or anything, or that are in the works?
No, not right now. We're just supporting the new Scream King record, like I said, and I'm doing some interviews and stuff like that.
And did you say there's another
places overseas and stuff that I'm working on?
Another music video on the way?
We're gonna try and start working on the video hopefully soon. It's just trying to get everybody's schedules to line up. Of course.
Kind
of difficult sometimes.
Yeah. And so what do you think of the process? I mean, this album did just literally come out like a month or so ago, but you gonna try to like what were your thoughts towards like the next album? Like you're gonna kind of work this album, I imagine, for quite a while first.
Well, yeah, for a while I'm gonna let this go. And I can't say too much about it, but I'm going to be in the studio working on a new Dragon Lore record.
Oh, wow.
With Grammy-nominated engineer Jeffrey Loof.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that's going to be taking up some of my time and effort, obviously, for a little while. So I'll be working on that. All the pre-production recording. The album's already written and recorded, but pre-production, which means we did it, in our own studios, back and forth, and now we'll go in the studio and work on it with an engineer.
And is your buddy Raphael, is he involved with that project as well?
No, he's not. This is some different guys, Phil Fouch and Michael Giordano, and my drummer from Scream King, Wendell Craig.
Okay.
He's involved in it. So we'll have some other people involved in it as well, maybe some special guests and stuff here and there. But
cool.
So that's going to be coming up and in the works. And those guys, Phil and Michael, both played in popular bands back in the '80s, Tyrant's Reign, that had a lot of success overseas and stuff too. So it's an exciting collaboration.
Yeah, so like I know, like me, Joe, probably the last couple of days been listening to kind of Death Angel to prep for the show tonight. But anything else?
I'm always listening to Death Angel. Why not?
Yeah. Anything else you've been listening to lately? That kind of like to turn people.
You know what? It's strange because just yesterday, the Flotsam and Jetsam album, I think that they came out with in 2010 or 12, somewhere where it was just called Flotsam and Jetsam. That one.
Yeah.
I lost it and I couldn't find it. I was tearing apart the house trying to find this CD, thinking, what the hell did happen to this? And this, I had them all autograph it, and I'm like, man, this is a bummer, And I found, I cleaned my car out, of all things, and found my CD book, and inside there was the album the whole time.
Oh, wow, amazing.
Yeah. So I've been getting reacquainted with that.
Oh, neat. Classic metal. So
it's the small things in life sometimes,
Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up tonight, Joe, anything else you want to be sure to say about Death Angel that you haven't already said?
Well, yeah, they're like I said, they're an amazing band, and don't listen to just one album.
Yeah.
Don't even just take our advice. Just if you're not familiar with them, go on YouTube, listen to some of their videos, check out some of their live performances. Every one of their albums has got something really awesome to offer, you know. And just my personal taste and opinion, like I said, basically since 2010, they've really been on my radar.
Yeah,
I've just been blown the fuck away by what they've been putting out the last 4 or 5 records. Have been phenomenal.
I mean, it's quite a while. It's been quite a while, but I remember initially when we were asking, you know, the folks on our This Is Metal page, hey, who are some bands you'd like us to do a show on? And that Death Angel is one name that constantly was coming up on people's lists. So I think you're in good company. And here's the cool thing about this. Like I said at the top of the show, I'm not a huge Death Angel fan, and this probably more like you are, Joe, in the sense that I could name a ton of songs. I mean, I had to write this stuff down so I could kind of remember. But like a lot of the shows we've done before, I kind of listened to stuff and I thought, man, how is this another band that I kind of, not that I missed, because like I said, you know, when they put out that,
you knew they were around.
I knew they were around, but I'm like,
right, sure.
How was it when I went in the direction like of Megadeth and Metallica and kind of missed this band, you know?
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
they're a phenomenal band, and hopefully they'll get more notoriety, and hopefully their next release will be just as good as the last ones.
So I got to tell people, you know, that's one of the things I enjoy about you know, doing This Is Metal with you, Joe, because sometimes, you know, when we're doing a particular episode, I might not be as familiar as you with the band, but you know, I do my homework before we do the episode, and so I can kind of sound like I know what I'm talking about. And in doing my homework, it's really fun because in every show we've ever done, I've really discovered some great music that maybe I wasn't as familiar with, and I'm like, man, you know, I'm going to go buy a Death Angel CD or whatever. I'm going to go familiarize myself with the rest of the catalog, and it's really fun for that reason. And I think more people should do that, because even if you're not familiar with the band, I find myself that when you open yourself to like I listened to this Death Angel stuff last night with fresh ears, in the sense that a lot of it I never heard before, and I'm kind of honestly sitting there listening. Okay, what do I think of this? And man, you know, okay, I'm kind of getting down to this stuff. But I think if more and more people would listen to stuff, you know, with fresh ears, you'd be surprised that you might discover some great music.
Oh, absolutely. That is how you discover great music.
Yeah.
You know, not everything's everybody's taste.
I mean, like we brought up before.
For heavy music, they're one of my favorite bands.
Like a lot of people, kind of with the Motley Crue album with John Corabi. 20 years later, they're discovering what a great album it is. When I heard it for the first time in '94, because as much as a fan as I am of original band, I thought, you know, okay, I'm going to listen to this stuff, and I'll tell you. It may not have been a Motley Crue album, if you know what I mean, but it was a great album. And 20 years later, people, you know, Motley Crue fans kind of have a new appreciation for it. But the one thing I will tell you, since becoming, you know, hearing him in Motley Crue, I'm a diehard John Corabi fan. I've gone back. That's how I got into the Scream, and that's anytime anything John Corabi related comes out, I'm going to buy it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Super nice guy, talented, and very genuine.
Yeah, very, very genuine, and it's almost laughable. Like people will hear, because you know, pretty soon we're going to also be posting our Motley Crue episode in another month or so, and people can hear that. But I was hearing in reference to a Motley Crue album, where years later Nikki Sixx was talking about the fact that
I might get some backlash from Nikki Sixx on that one.
Yeah, but he was talking about.
He calls me out on it.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, sure would. But we were laughing because Nikki had said some statement in a recent interview that you know, a couple months back when we did that episode, that he remembered having to teach John Corabi how to write a song when he joined. I'm like, oh, come on, you listen to that Scream album, which came before Motley Crue, and you tell me that guy didn't know how to write songs.
Right. Yeah, that's Nikki's inflated ego. Sorry.
Yeah. And you know, in fact, talking about Nikki Sixx, you know, he supposedly put his band 6 a.m. to bed, but now there's now not only is he talking about getting Motley Crue back together, but he's talking about getting that band back together and doing a new album. So Nicky's, I guess, keeping himself busy. He's moved to Wyoming. But anyways, I guess before we wrap this up, Joe, I'll just let people know that next week we're going to do an episode on Rad, and there's a couple reasons. Rad is kind of, I don't know where you go, if they're hard rock or metal, but if you go back to the very first EP they put out, like before Out of a Cellar, that was really like full blown on metal, and they're more hard rock these days. But we're going to be talking about them for a couple of reasons, and we'll get into that next week. But one of the reasons is Robin Crosby, the guitar player who died of AIDS in 2002. Next year is going to be like the 20th anniversary of his passing, and then his birthday just passed. So, and then there's other kind of rat-related news we're going to be talking about. But episode,
cool. Looking forward to it.
So, and then the episode after that, you'd wanted to do an episode on the band Forbidden, and that's another band I don't know too much about. So we have that to look forward to. Anything else you'd like to say, Joe, before we wrap it up for tonight?
No, not other than thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate all your support, and we'd like to hear some more comments from you. Check out our page, This Is Metal, on Facebook, and post some stuff, ask some questions, engage with us. That's what it's all about, a community and network of people who love music,
And we have a lot of the same people posting on the page, and I love that, though, because those are the true fans, as you say. And I want to always encourage people that are in bands, if you have anything like from your band, a video or just even an audio sample you'd like to post on the page, please feel free to do so. We'll give you a shout out or whatever.
Absolutely.
And finally, I want to let people know that one of the funnest things that Joe and I do in this is a metal show is just kind of figuring out what the show's going to be on, and what we typically do is like I'll say, okay, Joe, let's discuss what we're going to do for the next like 4 shows, and we kind of go back and forth. And I like that because Joe says, for example, like he says, well, I don't know if we didn't need to do so many, this is an anniversary of this album type of show. And, we go back and forth. But Joe really, keeps me on my feet. And I think what makes the show so great is just your brutal honesty, Joe. Like you'll tell me, well, okay, we like for example, we've done 2 episodes now on Ronnie James Dio. And the first one we kind of talked about like everything throughout his career, but mostly like Black Sabbath. And so you told me, okay, well, if we're going to do another Ronnie James Dio show, we can do that, but let's make it, a little different, something that we haven't. So that one's going to be airing soon too. And so what that was, Joe said, why don't we, instead of just talking about Black Sabbath again or Dio, let's talk about kind of some of his earlier bands. Let's get into Rainbow. Let's get into Elf. And so that's
what made the Man on the Mountain.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And I recently got Ronnie's book that he started to write before he died, obviously, and then when he passed away, I guess a lot of the writing had already been done, and then his wife Wendy and this other guy Mick Wall, who's a famous metal writer, they finished the book. It's quite a good book, so I urge people to go out and get that too if they haven't already.
Absolutely.
And so, Joe, we have all this stuff to look forward to. So you take care, my friend, and I'll be in touch, and we'll do a show next week. Take care, buddy.
You too. Bye-bye.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.